Hi everyone.
Hello there.
We are sitting outside despite many sounds in the surroundings. Tractors plowing, busy planting. It's been raining and it's been wet now for a number of days, and everybody is cashing in on the little bit of sunshine this afternoon.
So we thought let's do it differently and go outside. It's such a beautiful afternoon, and the washing is drying on the line for the first time in almost a week. And yeah, let's share that with you.
Yeah. We want to talk, or the subject for this week is something that we've had on our list that we wanted to discuss for a number of weeks now. But then other subjects came up, and we thought that was necessary at that stage. But then we've run out of subjects and we've decided to take this one.
We had to go back to the drawing board. Yeah, so what we wanted to talk about, and it's especially came to the fore with our recent Enneagram workshop, where one of the it was completely not planned. One of the characteristics of the weekend was that we laughed and laughed and laughed. There was just such a lot of humor and such a lot of sharp comments, and it was just at times so hilarious. And what we found is that it was so positive, and it really played such a huge part in digesting the information and in recognizing yourself in somebody else's behavior, and it was really just so wonderful. So we thought, let's talk a bit about humor. And it's a difficult thing because you can't really define it very well. It's sort of out of your grasp all the time when you try to talk about it or to explain it.
When you experience it, you know exactly what humor is.
Yeah.
But when somebody asks you to give an example or to define it, no, example is easy, but to define it, then you get stuck.
Yeah.
Because how do you define it? It's not about being merely happy or upbeat.
Or just telling jokes.
No.
It's actually not about telling jokes so much as reading situations and then sort of commenting on that in a very sort of a very focused but very fine way, and a very funny way. Is to see the funny part of something, or to play into something. It's really so delicate, and I think it's a gift. I don't think all people have a real talent for humor. Luckily, I've shown you that I can be taught.
And that is an indication for me that there can be an improvement.
Yes.
In a sense of humor.
Yeah.
When you start out dry, you can become more creative.
George is always so proud of me if I can see a joke through to the end, and I really get the punchline, and I play it so well that he doesn't know I'm actually pulling his leg. So I'm definitely getting better.
Yes. I'm so proud of her in such situations, even if it is at my cost. Being proud overrules that way more.
You're actually proud of your education, so it's absolutely not about me. But I think also, talking about that, I think humor can also have a negative side.
Yes.
In the sense that one can actually hurt, unintentionally hurt by saying something funny when it's really not the time to do it, or to play into something while you actually know that it's a sensitive subject, and you make light of it by being humoristic, but actually you know that you are either trying to bring a point across, or you sort of hinting at something. And I think in that sense, humor can also be negative.
Yeah, through humor you can get a stab.
Yeah.
You can get a stab in. But the interesting part, and that comes back to the difficulty in defining humor, what I love watching is situations where you have a famous actor or a famous person, and there's a function where that person is honored, and they have somebody who roasts that person. That person is there, and this person roasts that person.
Yeah.
Roasting is such an important aspect, an interesting aspect for me, because it is not vicious.
Yeah, it's almost just putting somebody really, and it's really incredible to see how they can come back on that, and
Yes.
how quickly they can pick up on that, and it's just like it comes from somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. So you can even tell somebody in their face,
Yeah.
or show a certain characteristic of them
Yeah.
in their face, and it becomes funny, because I think a big ingredient that we didn't touch upon in the Afrikaans recording is a big ingredient in humor is recognition.
Definitely.
You recognize something about yourself in the joke, in the experience of the other person, and I think that's why we laughed so much at the Enneagram workshop. There was this recognition, realizing, oh, so you have the same problem than
Yeah.
me, or each type has their own difficulties and so on. So there's this deep sense of recognizing yourself in a situation, relating to that. It draws you in, but in a very light-hearted manner. It's as if humor provides shocks, or a suspension,
And almost like a pressure relief. You know, in situations, it can sometimes just make the difference. You really have to play it well, though. You know, I mean, if somebody's really not feeling like anything is funny, and you are trying your utmost to bring them out of it, it can actually be devastating.
Yes.
But it's worth a try, I would say. You know, I mean,
But don't try too hard. That is the thing. Don't try too hard.
it's an art. I know it's an art.
Yeah.
And by that, we're not saying that we shouldn't, we who are not so skilled at it shouldn't do it or shouldn't try it. I think what we are trying to say is that humor is important. It's not something frivolous or
It's a very important spiritual element.
yeah.
So don't shy away, and I think explore humor in your own life. Read humorous books. Watch humorous clips.
Or movies.
Or movies.
I also think humor in a safe relationship is very beautiful to see. Where somebody, say it's a couple, and they can actually play in on each other's little quirks, but without the other person being overly sensitive to that. So, and I think it's actually very it is beautiful to see that, and to be part of that, where it's almost like a heartwarming, like a caring thing. Like also, like, I really know you so well that I can actually point this out in such a funny way that you will know that I know. And I think in that sense, it's really something beautiful in a relationship. But again, I think one always has to be sensitive for where the other person is, and I think that's the art in humor, is to really be very intent on what's happening and what the energy. It has to do with awareness, really, and reading a situation.
And being creative,
Yeah.
bringing elements together that's not always, you don't expect them to be grouped in a certain situation.
Very creative, very, very creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unexpected often. And I think that's usually where it has its power, is that it catches you off guard, and it's really, it just tickles your what's that? Your laugh, your muscle,
Yeah.
what's it called? In Afrikaans it's called jou lagspiere. So I'm at a loss for the English term.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you were saying in the Afrikaans version that the Bible is not a book of jokes.
No, it's not a book. It's not a slapstick book, and it's not a book of jokes. But there's a lot of humor in the Bible, because the Bible, a big part of the Bible, was written by very good storytellers. Especially the Old Testament. I love reading the Old Testament. When you read these family sagas and you see they have their own share of problems and so on, and the commentary that these authors actually give through the way they tell the story of underlying turmoil and tension, and it's just beautiful. And reading about Jesus's ministry, you read of Jesus crying, but you don't read of Jesus laughing. But if you read his parables and you see the way he ministered, there was a light tone to a lot of what he shared and showed. I'm always fascinated by the fact that he gave the nickname Boanerges to John and James, his two disciples. He saw a characteristic of them, their short fuse. And he said, you know what? The two of you can just as well be called sons of thunder.
Yeah.
It's reading a situation. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to see that nations who have suffered or are in very difficult circumstances, going through very difficult circumstances. Sorry. They often have a very good sense of humor. If I think of the situation in South Africa, that can be very, very challenging. Humor is such an important element in South African society.
And we saw it with the Rugby World Cup again, with a couple of things that were happening and the commentary that was so funny. It was
so
just
quick.
Hilarious. So, and I think, yeah, like you say, like the Jewish humor is also really exceptional.
If you look at the Jewish history, how they were dispersed all over the world, they're suffering under different circumstances, but there's a sense of humor that you find with the Jews. That's I love that sense of humor.
And even the Czechs, the Czech Republic, they have a very specific, particular type of humor that I think you don't always get when you first introduced to it, but it's also very unique to each nation, I think. And we have our family jokes. I think every family has their jokes, and I also think it has to do with storytelling in a way, and in remembering. I often think of the times we had with our two dads, both with dementia and often very difficult circumstances, but thinking back, a lot of those stories and things that they were saying and doing are now such funny stories, and we tell it over and over, even to each other, and we laugh every time. It just stays so funny. So it really makes life just that little bit lighter. Gives a different perspective to things.
So the question might be, so why did we talk about humor this afternoon? From all our conversations, a lesson is to be taken. That's our aim.
I wanted to say, we don't need to give them a lesson, darling.
No, that's the aim of all our conversations, is to teach. What can be taken out of, why did we talk about humor? Humor is important. Humor is a very serious subject and a very important element of spirituality. Don't ignore it, don't shy away from it, explore it.
And let's not take ourselves so seriously.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
May you laugh a lot.
Yeah, we would love to hear about things that really it's a funny bone. It's the funny bone. It tickles the funny bone. What tickles your funny bone? Have a lovely week, everyone.
Keep well. Bye-bye.
Bye.